I took great pride in being a dedicated father, especially when I secured a home for my daughter. However, my husband chose to spend my hard-earned money on a lavish apartment without consulting me. Angered by his bold decision, I quickly responded by filing for divorce. My husband, clearly caught off guard by my unexpected action, was visibly stunned. With a sly grin, I, Jocelyn Anderson, a 50-year-old office worker with a lifelong passion for French, initiated what I saw as true retribution. Let me take you back for a moment. I married at 23, but my first husband tragically died just 6 months later in a car accident caused by a drunk driver. Although I received $500,000 in insurance, no sum could bring back my late husband. During that difficult time, Ernest Anderson, a kind-hearted coworker, listened patiently to my grief. Over time, our bond grew stronger, leading to our marriage when I was 25. Now, fast forward to today, my daughter, Christina, an aspiring illustrator, has created tension within our family. Disputes about her education arose during her senior year of high school. Ernest had always envisioned a specific path for Christina, attending a prestigious university and pursuing a traditional corporate career, while this conflicted with her passion for illustration, which she had nurtured since childhood. Initially, I supported Ernest's educational decisions, but everything changed when Christina expressed her desire to enroll in an art school to pursue her dreams. While I was open to her choice, Ernest was adamantly against it, insisting she follow a more conventional route. Our differing views on Christina's future became a major point of contention, setting the stage for the real confrontation. Rather than starting a freelance career, I chose to work for a company. When Christina shared her dreams of becoming an illustrator, my husband belittled her aspirations, dismissing them as mere hobbies. His harsh criticism forced me to stand up for Christina's right to pursue her passion, stating that it was her life and she deserved the chance to follow her dreams. This only infuriated him further, as he insisted that a child's purpose was to fulfill their parents' ambitions. He firmly believed that if Christina adhered to his prescribed path, she would surely find happiness. I was astonished by his narrow-minded views, hoping he would eventually come to appreciate and support our daughter's choices. Unfortunately, my optimism was misplaced, causing a deep divide between us. Despite my financial contributions toward Christina's education and living costs, Ernest remained unhappy, consistently voicing his dissatisfaction even after Christina successfully gained acceptance into her desired art school and landed a job as an illustrator. Ernest continued to overlook her accomplishments, grumbling about the expenses on tutoring and branding her a failure. Christina, determined to succeed, worked tirelessly, often sacrificing her weekends and sleep for her craft. Despite this shift in focus, Ernest's attitude toward Christina's career remained unchanged. In fact, he grew increasingly harsh with me for supporting her, nitpicking various aspects of our home life. Recognizing his true character, I found it increasingly difficult to be at home. Luckily, since we worked in different departments at the same company, I was somewhat shielded from daily confrontations. Yet, in a surprising twist, Ernest announced his plan to buy Christina a luxury apartment, claiming it was important to him as her father, despite his clear disdain for her career aspirations. This sudden change in demeanor raised my suspicions and made me question his true motives. I began to wonder if he even had the financial capacity to buy such an expensive place. Noticing my reaction, he coldly smirked and laid out his intentions, revealing that I would be the one paying for it. Shocked, I protested, urging him to consult me before making such significant decisions. In response, Ernest scoffed, showing that he knew about the $500,000 insurance payout from my late husband and suggested I use it for the apartment. He brazenly declared his intention to move in with Christina, insisting that both she and I were essentially his property. Fueled by intense anger, I couldn't believe his vindictive plan and the nerve he had to use the critical insurance money for such a purpose. In retaliation, I acted decisively, handing him divorce papers. He looked astonished, likely not expecting me to be so prepared. But this was only the beginning of my true vengeance. Smirking, I expressed my long-standing mistrust of someone who would discriminate against his own daughter and voiced my frustration with his constant criticism. I informed him of my decision to divorce him, making it clear that I had been contemplating it for quite some time, waiting for the right moment. Taking advantage of his earlier mention of divorce, I urged him to file quickly if he truly wanted freedom. Initially dismissing my words as a joke, Ernest grew furious when faced with the reality of our situation. My anger peaked as he attempted to downplay everything. I stood firm, insisting he accept the divorce papers and highlighting the absurdity of his actions. Threatening to consult a lawyer, he reluctantly took the papers, still claiming it was merely a concern about potential backlash. I swiftly exited the house and submitted the divorce papers to the city court. I immediately informed Christina about the outrageous behavior, and she was equally furious. She condemned her father's actions and offered me comfort, suggesting I stay at her apartment for a while. I decided to spend the night at Christina's place. That evening, we engaged in discussions, carefully planning our next moves against Ernest. About a week later, during a holiday, Christina and I visited Ernest's home, the place I had called home until just a week ago, now feeling like a distant stranger's residence. When I rang the doorbell, Ernest quickly appeared, wearing a condescending expression as he questioned our reason for visiting. He arrogantly assumed we had come to apologize for everything. Despite his infuriating arrogance, I managed to suppress my anger and spoke in a subdued, apologetic tone, claiming I was indeed there to apologize for my wrongs. Christina, acting as a remorseful daughter, echoed my words, completely unaware of the ruse. Ernest seemed genuinely pleased, thinking we had finally come to our senses. However, his interest was piqued when he noticed the bags we carried, so full they were nearly bursting, tightly secured to hide their contents. From one of the bags, I produced a stack of $10,000 bills, expressing regret for my previous actions. I offered him some of my late husband's insurance money, suggesting he use it to move into the luxury apartment with Christina. I mentioned the total amount of $500,000 and asked him to keep it safe. Ernest's eyes lit up at the sight of the money, and he eagerly agreed to safeguard it. He welcomed us into the house without hesitation. Despite having left just a week prior, the place was a mess, with laundry and trash strewn everywhere. I struggled to suppress my laughter, picturing Ernest struggling to maintain the house alone. Christina and I stored the bag's contents in the safe, leaving out the bundle of $10,000. Thankfully, when Ernest went to the kitchen to prepare coffee, he was completely unaware of what we were doing. After returning to Christina's apartment, I took the bags and moved into a new place on my own. Christina bid me farewell with a smile, promising to reach out once she was settled. 2 days later, while I was peacefully asleep in my new home, Ernest called, inquiring about the $500,000. I couldn't help but laugh, realizing he had taken longer than expected to notice the deception. Ernest had fallen into my trap. The bags mostly contained newspapers, cleverly arranged to give the illusion of holding $500,000. I had only arranged for $110,000 from the bank to convince Ernest of my deception. Once I deposited that money back into my account, it was no longer under my control. Had Ernest probed deeper and requested to check the contents of the bags, I would have been ready to disclose the reality, stating that such an incredible opportunity couldn't possibly be authentic. However, he was completely misled by just the $10,000, falling for my trick entirely. Ernest had mistreated both Christina and me for far too long, so I believed it was only fair to retaliate in this manner. If you want to blame someone, look at your past self, not me, I calmly said. Ernest, appearing distressed, began to plead, acknowledging his wrongs and asking for my forgiveness. I was taken aback by his selfish logic and firmly declined his request. I'm neither your ATM nor your housekeeper. You are an adult, manage your own affairs. Furthermore, I'm in France now. This isn't just a holiday, it's a permanent job transfer. I've made the choice to divorce you and start anew overseas, I explained, detailing my resolve to pursue my aspirations and escape his influence. Ernest, bewildered by this news, asked why I hadn't informed him sooner. I brushed off his inquiry, asserting that we had become practically strangers, each working in different departments. I also mentioned that Christina would be reaching out to him the following day via a messaging app. The next morning, due to the time difference, I set up a video call with Ernest and Christina. Christina began by expressing her feelings, recalling her childhood admiration for him but swiftly shifting to her present disapproval. You completely disregarded my career choice, revealing your true self. You aimed to control me, not out of love. Now, I despise you and never want to see you again. This call marks the end of our communication. I'm severing ties, Christina asserted decisively, leaving Ernest visibly shaken. Unexpectedly, Ernest remained calm, pleading for her compassion, seemingly convinced that Christina would always cherish him. But Christina stood firm, urging him to reflect on his actions. She also informed him that she had relocated and advised him not to try and track her down through investigators or other means. To bolster her statement, I added that I had informed his workplace, relatives, and parents about the reasons behind our divorce, ensuring clarity regarding our decision. With that, The call ended, leaving Ernest to contemplate the repercussions of his actions. After wrapping up the video call with Christina, I mirrored her sentiments, ignoring Ernest's desperate apologies. As his remorse had lost all significance to me, Christina felt a wave of relief, liberated after expressing her true emotions. Executing our plan brought a sense of satisfaction, especially witnessing its impact on Ernest. In the aftermath, Ernest faced various repercussions. He became increasingly uncomfortable at work and eventually resigned. Isolated by his relatives and parents, he had to abandon his plans for the luxury apartment. His disruptive behavior even caused a scene at Christina's workplace, resulting in his ban from entering. Ernest's selfish decisions led to a chain reaction of losses, causing him to retreat into a reclusive lifestyle at home. Efforts to contact him for work-related issues proved futile. When a colleague finally stopped by his house, they found a disheveled Ernest, sporting a wild beard, a vacant expression, and an overwhelming stench emanating from his home. His once cozy space had become an unrecognizable dump. Watching Ernest's downfall, I couldn't help but feel he was reaping the consequences of his actions. In contrast, I found happiness in my new life abroad, overcoming cultural differences through careful communication and enjoying the use of my French skills. The decision to transfer overseas had been incredibly rewarding. Christina, flourishing in her career as an illustrator, had been entrusted with significant projects. In our phone conversations, she expressed her satisfaction, highlighting the joy of following her passion. As a mother, witnessing my daughter thrive in her chosen field filled me with immense pride. Despite the challenges we faced, both Christina and I emerged from the ordeal radiant and fulfilled in our lives. The journey, though turbulent, taught us that we had made the right decisions, and our pursuit of dreams had led to a brighter and more satisfying existence. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you again in the next video. Stay amazed.